from the college football playoff quarterfinals, starting Ohio State versus Miami kicks things off Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern, the 2 versus 10 matchup. Then you have on Thursday, Oregon, Texas Tech, Alabama, Indiana, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Buckle up. It should be electric. With that, we bring in CBS Sports national college football writer Shahan Jeyarajah. And Shahan, when we talk about this Miami-Ohio State matchup, it's a rematch of the 2003 national championship game. There are so many storylines here, game-changing players who are going to be playing on Sundays. When you think about all the talent that is on the field, who's the player that could really make a big difference in this one?
Yeah, take me to Miami, but on the Ohio State sideline. Jeremiah Smith, the standout wide receiver over there, is the best receiver in college football. And you look at the 2024 season, the college football playoff was the moment where he really started to write his legend. He was huge in their first 2 games against Oregon and Tennessee last year, and also had huge plays in the national championship game as well. When I look at this Miami defense, they are really, really good in the secondary and in the trenches, but Jeremiah Smith is the kind of maker who can break this game wide open. I think that he will have a huge game against Keontae Scott in a really good Miami secondary, and he's going to have a chance, I think, to really swing this game on its head.
Yeah, Keontae Scott, he had some huge plays in that first-round matchup versus Texas A&M, but going up against Jeremiah Smith, that's a different animal, right? That's a different type of player who they have not seen this season. Now, when you think about this game, who is going to win, Buckeyes or the Hurricanes?
Yeah, give me the Buckeyes. I think that this is going to be a good challenge for them, especially when you look, right? You have All-Americans on both defensive lines, and by the way, a unanimous All-American on Miami's offensive line. But what it's going to ultimately come down to is I struggle to see Miami moving the ball against what I consider to be one of the great defenses in college football for Ohio State. You look at Miami in that first game against Texas A&M, they could not pass the ball. Obviously, the wind played a big part, but this is a secondary that dwarfs what Texas A&M brought to the table. Give me Ohio State to win, and give me a narrow cover in this game as well.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I think Ohio State, they will be tested, but in the end, they have too much talent on both sides of the ball, and they get the W. Now let's move to the 4 versus 5 matchup between 2 of the top 7 scoring defenses in the country. Texas Tech battling the Ducks in the Orange Bowl. Dante Moore, he's going to have his hands full, but so will Baron Morton for the Red Raiders. What player is going to end up, Shahan, being the major difference in who wins this ball game?
Well, for Oregon, it's really simple. If Dante Moore is able to stand on his spot, he's almost impossible to stop. If you get pressure on him, you have a chance. And David Bailey, the great edge rusher from Texas Tech, is going to give them a chance. He leads the nation in sacks in the regular season, 13.5. He is a potential first NFL draft pick, and probably the biggest game changer that Texas Tech got in 2025 in their great portal class. He's just been a big-time contributor for this team. And when I look at that Oregon offensive line, look, they obviously are a great unit, but they haven't seen a player like him in 2025. Indiana was able to cause some trouble against this Oregon offensive line. I think that Texas Tech's unit is even better on defense. So give me David Bailey to have a huge game and potentially swing this game.
Yeah, I mean, the way they play defense, it is so disciplined. They are physical. They get after you. So they are going to, Oregon Ducks, that is, they're going to have their hands full. Now, Shahan, we know you are a huge advocate of Big 12 schools, especially when it comes to getting their proper respect around the nation. Are you picking Texas Tech here, or are you going with Dan Lanny's Ducks?
Well, look, Oregon might be the fastest team in the nation, and we saw that on full display against James Madison. So Texas Tech could have an adjustment period. I would not be surprised to see Oregon come out and take an early lead. This Texas Tech team is just too good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be able to shut down Oregon's rushing defense and get to quarterback Dante Moore. The big question for me about whether Texas Tech can win this game is whether they can convert some of those red zone opportunities. They've been a struggling red zone offense so far. They're the worst one remaining in the college football playoff, but they also created a lot of big explosive plays. So I think that Texas Tech is able to get enough stops, and I think that they're able to create enough explosive plays.
All right, Shahan going with the Texas Tech Red Raiders to get the W over Oregon. Now in the Rose Bowl, you got number 9 Alabama, hoping this time they'll be biting into those fresh roses after their matchup versus number 1 Indiana, something they failed to do in Nick Saban's final year when they lost to Michigan in overtime. So what player should we keep our eye on to change the course of this game? And there are plenty of them, right, between these two squads.
Absolutely. I'm looking at Indiana's defense, especially, by the way, with the loss of Stephen Daly, their fantastic defensive lineman. Give me those Indiana linebackers led by Aiden Fisher. Now, Fisher hasn't actually needed to be a super productive player this year. He's more been able to be the guy sitting back there and directing traffic, but he needs to be a big-time disruptive player in this game. He only had about 7 tackles for loss, as a lot of the guys around him were able to pick up that workload. But with their top tackle for loss leader Daly out for the game with a freak injury, he needs to be a difference maker. He needs to be somebody who's hitting Alabama's running backs behind the line of scrimmage, who's coming in on blitzes as well. And I think that when you look at this game, I mean, that's going to be a huge part of it. If Indiana's able to completely shut down this Alabama rushing offense, they're going to have a great chance to win this game. That starts with Aiden Fisher.
And to that point, we've seen Alabama have struggles, right? Getting a running game, getting a running attack that is flourishing. And we know Indiana has one of the best defenses in the nation. So Kalen DeBoer and his team, they will have their work cut out for them for sure. Now, Alabama, more than a 7-point underdog in this game against the undefeated Hoosiers and Kurt Cignetti. Are you going with the best team in America? Or are you relying on Roll Tide to flex their muscles when it matters the most, man?
Yeah, well, talking to friends and family, they're like, "What do you mean that Indiana is favored by 7 points against Alabama?" It's just a weird sentence to say after the last decade or so. But I think that Indiana is just straight up the better team. I spoke so much about their defense in that last segment, but they have the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback on the other side, and Fernando Mendoza. And I think it will ultimately come down to the offensive side of the ball for Indiana. They're going to be able to move the ball with consistency, with effectiveness. I think that they've faced many defenses that are better than this Alabama one. And I also look at Roman Hemby, their running back. I think that he, as a tackle breaker, will be huge in this game. Alabama is really good up front, but this is an Indiana team that I think is just better almost everywhere on the field.
Yeah, and if they can get after Ty Simpson, we know how he looks when he's under pressure, being under duress. It is not a pretty scenario for Roll Tide. All right, so you got Indiana beating Alabama. I'm sure Alabama fans will be thrilled to hear that. Now, in a rematch of the thriller in Athens where the Bulldogs won, you got number 6 Ole Miss taking on number 3 Georgia. The list of marquee games for this battle is endless, Jahan. You got Trinidad Shambliss, Gunnar Stockton, Zachariah Branch, Kewan Lacey, to name a few. Who decides this game?
It's going to be explosive plays, and it's going to be Zachariah Branch, the Georgia wide receiver. He led the game in receiving yards in the first matchup and fourth quarter run for Georgia to pull away and ultimately get back into that game. I think they're going to go to him early and often in this matchup. Gunnar Stockton is actually an underrated deep ball passer. He's been able to make plays in big moments, but I think that they're going to have to start that early in this one because this Ole Miss team, you can't let them get confidence. When they get confidence, they get rolling and they're able to put up points. I think that Zachariah Branch helped create an early lead that ultimately allows Georgia to really play their game.
Now, it's quite hard to beat a team twice in the same season. Oklahoma failed to do it against Bama in the first round. Will Georgia suffer the same fate, or do they roll on Ole Miss the way they finished off Bama in the SEC title game?
Well, there are 2 things that I look at when I look at rematches, right? It's coaching and it's roster. I think that you tend to regress kind of back to those means. And in both of those advantages, give me Georgia in those spots. I think they're going to be prepared after giving up 35 points to Ole Miss's offense the first time around. I think that defensively, they've continued to grow over the course of the season. And I think that ultimately, this is just a better team and a better roster, especially they've run the ball better in the second half of the year. I expect them to put up a lot of points, and I don't expect Ole Miss to be able to keep up.
Right, that Ole Miss defense, the offense, we talk about the offense all the time, really electric, but the defense, they have a lot of holes. We see the Georgia defense, they've slowly gotten better and better, so I'm with you there. I think the Georgia Bulldogs pull out the victory over Ole Miss. Jahan, we appreciate the time as always, man.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Ohio State is the betting favorite as national champions, followed by Indiana. The Hoosiers open the season as 100-1 long shot, right? That would be the longest preseason title odds by an eventual national champion in the last 25 seasons. Georgia is third on the board at plus 500 to win its 3rd national title in the past 5 years. Kirby Smart can join Nick Saban and Urban Meyer as the only head coaches with 3 or more titles in the BCS college football playoff era. Coming up, while the UFC Trojans didn't make the college football playoff, Jade Mayava and Lincoln Riley still enjoy a shot to end the season on a high versus TCU. A preview of the action next.